Alright, now let's talk about HTZ Warfare. This software is a very advanced and complex software. So it gives you all the flexibility you need to plan complex mission planning scenarios. Now, I would like to talk about the inputs, the major inputs that go into the software first to understand what's going on behind it. Now, in the background, we have the digital cartography, the digital maps, which is really compulsory for us to do any sort of accurate modern predictions. Now, what you're looking at here is a heat map for the digital elevation model. Now, we can display this in different scale, different legend. This is the grayscale or the shade view. I like this view. So you can see here the terrain, the complexity of the terrain we're using, the accuracy. You can see it's really nicely polished and very precise and detailed terrain. So this is roughly the area I'm trying to protect. Okay, and I've got here a network. I'll talk about the network later on, the jammers, the radars, with the predicted flight paths and so on. But for now, let's just focus on the map. So this is the map that I'm going to use. And on the top of this terrain, we have what we call the digital clutter model. This is the clutter. So you can see I've got two types of vegetations. So if I click here, I can see I have parkswood and I've got forest. The forest obviously is more dense and higher in elevation compared to the parks. So when you move the cursor around, you can actually read here the type. This is forest, and then this is a sort of wood or park, and here the red is actually the buildings, and the brown here is a rail network. So you can see the environment has been also captured in this. And on the top of this, we also use what we call the building layer. So the building layer is the layer which is giving the 3D dimension or the Z dimension to the obstacles. So all the obstacles will be embedded here, and they would have extra height on the top of the terrain. And this is extremely important if you want to understand the impact of the buildings on your radars or on the visibility. Okay, but for such rural areas, remote areas, the clutter or the vegetation, the trees, the forest is far more important, obviously. Now, the last layer that I have is the image. This is just an imagery. We could use the ortho geospatial images, or just OpenStreetMaps or Google Maps and so on. So this is these are the maps behind the software. The next important input that goes into your simulations is the propagation engine, the propagation model that we have. And for this, we have a large collection of propagation models suitable for VHF, UHF, HF, SHF, all sort of frequency range, and also all sort of scenarios: ground, air, ground, air, communication systems, even satellite communication systems. If you want to predict the signal from satellite, for example, on a specific area, a GPS. So you can see here the propagation models. We have ITU propagation models. We have aeronautical propagation models. We have ground wave propagation models. So doesn't matter what theory you want to apply or what standard you want to follow, very likely we have the propagation model that you need. Now, the one which I personally propose to use for VHF and UHF communication systems is the combination of free space and Dago, not the 4 method and course or standard. It depends. But what I've seen is that this propagation model providing us or giving us really good correlation between predictions and measurement. And this is a really fast model, so I really like it for initial simulations. So these two are the baseline for any sort of simulation software that you're going to have. The maps you need to make sure the tool is supporting high resolution maps, and the propagation engine should give you the flexibility and the diversity you need in a mission planning environment. Now let's talk about the RF aspect. So here I've got a range of network. So I've got here in red the radars. So I've got radar 1, radar 2, radar 3, radar 4, and I've got here in blue the triangle, the inverted triangle. These are the jammers. So let's have a look at them. So let's have a look first at the jammer list. So in the jammer, you see I have 3 jammers, and in the jammer we've got the transmission powered, the antenna gain, and then the minimum and the maximum frequency, and supported by the antenna and by the jammer itself. And here we have the bandwidth. So we support 3 different types of jammers: the fixed frequency, which obviously the jamming specific frequency range, and then we've got the wideband diffusive, which is spreading the power evenly across the spectrum, and then we've got adaptive one, which is a bit smart. It will look at the utilization of the spectrum and generate interference or jamming signal on these channels only. And this is the antenna model that you can import or model as well. That's for the jammers. Now we also have here in the station list you would have the radar. So this is the radar, first radar. So for the radar, you can see you've got the peak transmission power, the antenna gain, losses, antenna height, frequency, range, the bandwidth, path width, and noise figure, and so on. And this is the RCS target. So we're going to do the predictions for the range of this radar and detection capability based on that target. Now it depends on what sort of RCS footprint the UAV or the drone has. You can calibrate this, so you can adjust it in order to predict the range of the radar for such target. So this is all fully computed, and you can control, if you want, the antenna pattern. You can control you can make the antenna rotary and so on. So that's the model I have for these radars. Now these circles are just to guide you, to show you to give you an indication of how far a target is, and from the center. Now you see here I've got some flight paths here, some flight passes that we want to just study. Now for me the most important thing is first to look at the radars. What sort of minimum detection height? Obviously these modern radar and modern UAVs or drones are avoiding radars by flying on specific passes and specific elevation, trying to take advantage of the terrain and try to infiltrate the area of interest they're targeting. So here you really need to understand the impact of the terrain around you on your radar capabilities. And your radar, you need to calculate the minimum detection height, the minimum flight height it can detect. So what I'll do, I'll go straight to the radar menu here, and then we go coverage calculations, and then radar coverage minimum detection. So the minimum detection height. I'm not going to talk about all the functionalities in the tool, just really the ones relevant to that scenario, which is protecting an asset or an infrastructure using the anti-drone network. So the minimum height I'm going to simulate is 500. The maximum I'm going to simulate is 3,000. I'm going to increment for 400 meters. I'm going to start with the 500, then 900, then 1.2, and so on, up to 3 kilometers above sea level. So run the simulation. So now the tool is running the simulation incrementally for all the radars that we have activated on the map. It should be pretty quick, and once the simulation is over, we can identify for any spot or for any path what is the minimum height that we could detect a target. Now initially the legend may be not the best, so I'm going to just default the legend first. Here we go. So the legend here is obviously starting roughly from 580 roughly, or 870 meters up to 3 kilometers here, 3 kilometers. So what does it mean? If I click on this and I specify here, say 500, then I go to 800, let's say, then 1200, and then 1500, and then 2000, 2500, and then 3000. So you could do something like that. Close. Here we go. Or we could use the one of the legends that I defined previously. So now what do we understand from this? I understand that if there is a drone coming through that path here, all right, so can only be detected if it's flying 500 meters and above. It's actually 900 meters. So when you navigate, you can read 900 meters. So to detect a drone here along that path, you should be flying 900 meters and above. Otherwise you are blind, you can't detect it. Now if the drone is coming from these areas here, and obviously because the terrain here is high as well, so here 1.3 kilometers above sea level to be detected. So if it's flying lower, it will avoid being detected by the radar. So you can see here we have this journey here. For example, this is could be coming from SDRN control, that journey or the intercepted drone flight path. So you can see here what sort of height. So you can read the height along the journey. So here at that spot is 900 meters. So if it's flying under 900 meters, you won't be able to detect it. Alright, so this is for the radar simulation. Now, this is really handy. So if you want to understand where the weak spot in your network, where the strong spot in your radars, and then if you need to enhance certain area of your protection area, if you want to add additional radars, we can use site search feature in the software in order to find ideal location to deploy a new radar. Now, if you want to understand now the jammer capability, so you can go to the jammer menu here, jamming, and or alternatively we can just go calculate the jammer coverage at the height, at the target height. Let's say I'm going to target 2,000 meters, 2,000 meters above sea level in that area here, and the nominal frequency 1.5 gigahertz, and then the maximum distance 20 kilometers. So this one will run the simulation for these radars one by one. Let me just show you the coverage of these radars, these jammers I mean. So this is the coverage of the jammer. Now I'm going to use that palette. So this is the palette that I have for the jammer. So if it is blue, light blue, then the jamming signal ratio is better than or equal to 10 dB. Alright, so we can shuffle this around if you want to start with the red here and then go backward. So this is the jammer efficiency, or the jammer coverage. Now here we're trying to jam the setup, the GPS signal. We're not trying to jam the communication between the drone and the controller. We're just trying to jam the GPS. So we're assuming the nominal power level for the GPS is in the order of neg 120 dBm. So if the jammer is delivering a neg 110 dBm, then that means it's a 10 dB the jamming to signal, to wanted signal ratio, 10 dB. So it's giving you an idea how much degradation the GPS receiver is experiencing. So obviously in this spot here near the jammer, you've got a very high degradation. Degradation is higher than 60 dB. And whereas if you go further away, like here it's in the order of 40 dB. Here it's in the order of this is the yellow, is in the order of 30 dB. So red is the least degradation you are delivering. And you can really try to understand why here we're not doing too much. I mean, it's obvious, but the tool giving you the possibility to study propagations from here, for example, to that spot here, and let's say we're flying at 2,000 kilometers, sorry, 2 kilometers above sea level. So you can see here on the far right, that's where the drone we're trying to attack, but because of the terrain is acting as a natural barrier, so the signal is not making it from the jammer on the far left to the drone on the far right. So this is helping you understand where are the areas you can have successful jamming, and what is the what sort of confidence you have in your jamming efficiency. So if you have any weak spot, or if you need to extend your jamming beyond a certain point, let's say here for example you want to extend your jamming here, what you could do, you could use the site search feature. So you can just highlight the area you want to jam, and then you go continuous search site, and in search site feature help you really find where is the ideal location to deploy your jammer. Just run it like this. This is a very complex operation, but it's really user friendly. It will give you a heat map with a percentage. Now that percentage, let me just default color again. So this is percentage of how good the location is. Now I've done this very quickly now, but you can see these red spots, for example, will deliver you a 20%, and then the brown spots here, they will deliver 24% of sort of efficiency in that area. So this heat map is not really giving you a location, but giving you a heat map, a guide to guide you select the best location to deploy a radar or a jammer to achieve a good performance. So yeah, this is the sort of analysis that can be done in the software to help you understand the performance of your anti-drone system, and help you also find the weak spots and patch them and deploy additional equipment to enhance it. Thank you for that.